a lot of our guys that do commercial work as well. What are your thoughts on flood testing? And if you are going to be flood testing, or you're going to be tiling after flood testing, what are a few of the things that you see that have gone wrong, or what you should be aware of? Because it is a common practice now where we're seeing people want flood tests, might be random showers on a project, or before the tiler starts, they want to see a flood report.
Yeah, well, the first issue that you encounter with the flood testing is setting the time to be able to get to that initial flood testing point, which again is where something like a sheet membrane, can get you to that point a lot sooner. Again, it's important to try and encourage flood testing, because you can sort of rectify an issue that you might have not seen. It will be, will come apparent with the flood test as well. And then you can offer the client that greater peace of mind as well, knowing that you've signed off on something, or you've moved on to the next stage, knowing that that level of the construction is sound and is going to perform the way it's designed to.
The tile adhesives that are used, okay, and not all waterproofers are aware of this. And actually, when we do our GAP courses, we actually go through the types of tile adhesives so the waterproofer understands tile adhesive. But there's various grades, C2S1, C1S1, C2S2, all the classifications that are out there, and all the manufacturers have got them. How does a tiler select the best waterproofing, or the waterproofing for the tile? Like, is there a time that you select a membrane or a waterproofing system based on the type of tile that you're going to be using?
Yeah, definitely the type of membrane and adhesive would have to be taken into consideration, especially with the weight of the tile. So if you're using a heavy or a large formatted tile, and large format can mean different things to different people depending on their experience, but say a 1200 by 600 tile on a wall is going to create some weight issues, weight loadings that you definitely have to prepare for.
And what about flooring for floor tiles? That if you did have large format, or like a large natural stone tile, would you still go against something that would be sheet, which could be a bit more punch resistant or tear resistant, versus a liquid that potentially could be scuffed or damaged? Or if it's screeded, you're not so concerned about that. Would you select the sheet over liquid for large format tiles on a floor area?
Yeah, well, one of the other reasons that we went more towards a sheet for most of our floor applications was for the resilience of the tear resistance, and knowing that if you drop something, it's not going to cause the same sort of damage as you would on a liquid membrane. So alternatively, there's cementitious products that are pretty robust as well. But again, the fastest application, that peace of mind for us, was always a sheet piece.
You mentioned to me in passing before that sometimes, and I wasn't aware of this, I've seen where spot fixing on tiles goes wrong, which is you shouldn't see it these days, but when you've got voids under a tile. But you mentioned that there are issues where you start to see grout discoloration and even potentially efflorescence, and then when you delve into it, it's not a grout issue, it's not even a screed issue, it's about the way the tiles have been laid. Is there a way that a builder can check, if they don't get to see the tiling application happening, that it's been tiled correctly once the tiles are down? Is there any apparatus these days available to anyone to know there's 100% coverage of tile underneath there? I know there's some guys who just do the tap test.
Yeah, the tap test doesn't always
pick it up,
especially on walls. On lightweight construction, you're going to get that sound regardless of the amount of coverage that you have. Ceramic tiles, it is a bit easier to pick up with the tapping. I'm sure there's probably a whole range of equipment that a professional inspector would have on hand. Thermal type equipment, and maybe even a film thickness.
Yeah, but if the tile's down, they might be able to tell that.
Yeah, it's very tricky. So there is a way. Probably the easiest test that you could do is to actually dig away at the grout. So if you were to get a sharp instrument, a blade, and then sort of poke into that grout, if that grout just breaks away and falls into a void, then that's a pretty good indication that you might have an issue. So the next step from there would be to remove a tile and see how it's been applied.
Okay. Yeah. Efflorescence. It's a big one, and it's become more of an issue in this industry for outdoor tiling. I mean, outdoor podiums and balconies now are a challenge for any waterproofing application, and there's ways and processes to do them right. But we see more efflorescence issues now because there is more waterproofing being used. In the old day, the moisture just gets sucked into the substrate.
Mm.
What do we do or what have you done to prevent efflorescence on your projects, the full process, from a tiling perspective?
Yeah, so for us, the critical part with that is to make sure that there is that, that layer, the waterproofing, where the waterproofing is occurring, that you have the correct drainage and falls to where that water needs to migrate to, instead of, the water then finding another way, another path, to sort of, and then create leaching. General efflorescence is, usually we'll treat that with a primer specifically designed to be able to handle that sort of phenomenon.
On top of the screed.
On top of the screed, so.
But if you're waterproofing on top of the screed, you still use that just in case? Is that sort of primer? Like the H2O primer.
The H2O primer, I think, has been a good one for us because it's allowed that faster turnaround in terms of waterproofing.
But there's, EFFLOC is used commonly out there. A lot of guys using that sort of product. So those products should be used over, say, our E60, which is an epoxy, because then you've got adhesion. You don't get the same adhesion.
That's right.
When the screed's treated with that sort of additive. What about additives in the screed? Is that going to reduce that?
So externally, we got into the practice of always applying the Gripset 11Y.
Yeah.
So that less water content, it helped the workability and it dry faster as well.
But additives will definitely help us.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, always.
And then the selection of grout externally versus what's inside. Is there an external grout? Is there an additive?
There's options there. There's Mapei make a good grout, the Ultra Color Plus.
Yeah.
So that one would always recommend for external applications. It's equally as good to use internally. Sometimes epoxies can be an option,
grouts,
but you'd have to be careful with the UV stability of that epoxy as well.
They're more internal for food prep areas.
Yeah, that's right. But with a lot of the time, what you'll find is people have had bad experience with certain
epoxy grouts.
Or not so much epoxy, just grout in general, and it might be a good idea to put that forward to your client as well to prevent those sort of issues reoccurring.
And I've always seen, and you'll see some shots in the background now where you get the edging always an issue at the fascia of balconies where water tracks in. You can be waterproofed and then it hasn't been finished off properly.
Yeah.
These days, when we do our training, we show people how there are processes out there to prevent that capillary action under the tile bed, back between the membrane and the tile bed. Simply, Shandy, what is the method to do that, and what should every builder be looking for in their pricing from a tiler doing a balcony?
It's a drip edge detail, so that finished edge detail that has the weep holes, so that water can, if you got a balcony that's set up without any centre waste or a strip drain, and it's primarily relying on the fall of that floor to fall off the edge, then you want to make sure that you've got sufficient falls.
Even if it's going to a gutter.
Yeah, or to a gutter, that's right. So sufficient falls, and that drainage angle is installed, and it's a correct type of angle as well, that it has a weep holes that allows for that water to escape. And
they're really available everywhere now.
Yeah, and they're pretty cost effective really, and it gives a really nice aesthetic finish as well. So it really makes sense to use them.
Trying to fill up
it's crazy.
Easier and
you come across some pretty interesting ways that people deal with that issue, but that's probably the best system that's currently available. Yeah.
Mate, it's been good to have you. I'm going to get you back on another silk for good now that you're not camera shy anymore.